What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel for Webflow Pros. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this transition interaction in Webflow, so let's get started. Alright, so to start off we have this section. I'm going to give it a combo class of isHero and we'll give it a height of 100 viewport height and we'll apply flexbox to center everything inside it. Then inside of that, I'll drag another div and I'll give this one the class of card. Now it's going to have a height of 100% of its parent and a width of 100 divided by 3% to make it exactly a third the width of the parent. Inside of that, I'll drag another div, and this one is actually going to have the class of card underscore media, and we're going to give it a position of absolute and don't anchor it to any corners, and we'll give it a width of 100% and a height of 100% of its parent, just like that, which means its parent is going to need position of relative to contain the absolute positioned item. We'll also give the card media a z-index of 1 because it's going to kind of rest on the bottom. And then we'll drag another div. Actually, this needs to be a link block. And we'll give this the class of link. And we'll give it a position of relative this time and a z-index of 2. So it rests on top of the media. And we'll also give it a width of 100% and a height of 100% of its parent. And let's give it some top padding, maybe 1.5 EM on both the top. And then on the sides, we'll give it some padding of 2 EM. I'll also go ahead and drag in a heading, and I'll make this an H3, and I'll go ahead and replace the text, and let me give this the class of link sub for subheading, and then I'll go ahead and duplicate this and make this one an H2, and I'll give this one the class of link heading, and then I'll go ahead and replace the text. Let's also align this to the bottom. We'll apply flexbox to the parent link and just align it like that, and then I'll also go ahead and drag an image, and we'll put this inside the card media, and we'll give this the class of card photo, and we'll go ahead and give it a width of 100% of the parent, a height of 100% of the parent. It'll be a position of absolute to cover and a z-index of 2, and we'll also apply a fit of cover so we don't stretch out the image. Let's just go ahead and apply an image there. And we'll also want a gradient on our link, so we can go to the background image and gradient section and just apply a gradient here. And I'm going to make this stop right here black at 70% opacity, and I'll also drag it to about 70% on the timeline. And then this part right here, I'll drag back somewhere around the 40% mark, and I'll bring the opacity all the way down so we have this nice bottom gradient right there. Then we're also going to need one more layer inside the card itself, so this will be another div, and I'll give this the class of play contain. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a bit of padding. We'll say 1.2 EM on all sides. We'll give this one a position of absolute and a z-index of 3, so that way it rests on top of the actual link, which means the entire parent, the card, needs flexbox and align everything to center so that this play contain sits right in the middle. Inside that play contain, I'll go ahead and drag in another link block, and I'm actually going to give this one the class of play, and this will be our movable play button. Its width is going to be 6 EM. The height will also be 6 EM. And we'll apply flexbox to center everything inside it. Then we'll drag a div inside of that, and we'll give this one the class of play button. This is also going to have a width and height of 6 EM. It's going to have a background color of our black color here and a radius of 100 viewport width. And we'll give it a background image, and we'll choose this play button image right there. Set it to center, cover, and no tile, and there we go. Also inside our card media, I'm going to have a card background video. I'll put this inside an embed, and I'll give it the class of card video. And this is going to have a position of absolute to cover the entire parent, a z-index of 1, so that way it's underneath the photo, and a width of 100% and a height of 100% as well. So once we have that, we can go ahead and duplicate the card, and I'll make 2 more of them. And let me change out the text in the photos. So next we'll go ahead and make our play button magnetic. So we'll grab our button contain that has the bit of padding. We'll create an element trigger on it that's mouse mover over element. And it will only happen on desktop. We'll apply it to the class. And then we'll create an animation called play move. And we're basically going to grab this link block, this play here, and set a move. And we'll move it over negative 2 EM here. And then on this part, we'll push it over positive 2 EM. Then we'll create another move down here, and we'll pull it up negative 2 EM, and then push it down negative 2 EM right here for this part. And then we'll also go ahead and save this and set the smoothing to 80%. So it has some nice smoothing there. And if we preview that, we should see this as anchoring inside of that container. So whenever we click on this card, we want it to expand out to full width. So we're going to add a combo class to this called isOpen. And basically that combo class is just going to set the width to 100%. Now it's not allowed to go 100% because these other cards are kind of blocking it. So we'll also add combo classes to the other cards called isClosed. That's going to set their width to 0% like that. That's going to allow this one to eventually span full width. We're also going to want to add transitions, and we'll apply it to all properties in this case and set it to 600 milliseconds. So that way when we add on the class, it sort of gradually spans out over that course of time. We're also going to go ahead and set the card itself to overflow hidden. And then to make sure that the text inside doesn't wrap when the width decreases, we'll go ahead and under more type options, set the breaking to no wrap. I'll add that combo class of isClosed onto this card as well, and then add the combo class of isOpen onto this one. And this is how it looks when it's all spanned out like that. We're also going to add a combo class of isOpen to this heading here. And what we're going to want to do is just increase the font size. So on the base class, we'll apply a transition and we'll apply it to all properties and set it to 600 milliseconds. And then when we add the class of isOpen, we're basically just going to want to increase the font size to 14 EM so it slides up. I'm also using a variable font here to sort of increase the boldness and italicize the font a little bit like that. If you'd like to learn more about variable fonts, feel free to check out my tutorial on Patreon. We'll also animate this subheading here, so I'll apply a same transition here to all properties of 600 milliseconds. And then I'll apply an isOpen combo class to this one. And here we're going to increase the font size to 2.4. And we'll also go ahead and apply a transform that's going to move it over 0.8. So it just pushes it over a little bit like that. I'm also going to apply a transition to our play button itself. And I'll apply it to all properties over 200 milliseconds. And then we're going to start it off with an opacity of 0. And whenever we add a combo class of isOpen, we're going to bring the opacity up. We'll even go ahead and start the base class off at a font size right here of 0.5 EM to scale it down by half. And then whenever we have the open class on, we'll scale it up to 1 EM font size like that. So it slides up. And then on the open state, whenever we're hovering over that one, we're going to go ahead and apply a transform of scale to this one. And it's actually going to scale it down to 0.9, just like that. So that way when we hover over, we get a nice little scale effect, just like this. Now, whenever we click on this button, we're going to add another combo class called isPlaying. And we're basically going to use that to switch out the background image here. And we'll also go ahead and set the default state on this down to 0.5 EM. So it cuts it in half. And the opacity will be 0% on this. And then we'll only show this state whenever we're hovering over it. We'll bring the opacity up, bring the font size up to 1, and then we'll also go ahead and set the scale on the hover state to 1 for this one. So that whenever we're in this isPlaying state, we don't really see the pause button unless we're hovering over it. But when we remove this class, we see the play button by default. Now, whenever we click on this play button, instead of doing a pop-up modal to play the video, we're going to scale this background image down and reveal the video underneath. Some of the best interactions really just guide the user to where their eyes should look next, and they serve more as a transition and less as an interruption to the experience. So to do that, we're going to want to animate this card media container. I'm going to apply a transition on this one to all properties and set it to 800. And then what we're going to do is basically just add a combo class of isPlaying onto this one. And that's going to set the width on it to 90%, just like that. Now, instead of forcing a height on this, we're going to want to detect the height based on the aspect ratio of our video that we plan to use. So in this case, I'm not going to set a height. I'm going to set a minimum height of 100%. And then I'll also add some top padding of 38%. And this top padding basically is just going to hold that spot of where that video should be, since our media inside is all positioned to absolute. And whenever we add this combo class of isPlaying, we're going to set the minimum height to 0%, and then it's only going to have the height of our padding right there. So that way when we remove this class, we see it taking up full 100% height and width. And then when we add the class, it's 90% width, and then whatever the height of the video is. We're also going to want to get this text out of the way whenever we're playing the video. So we'll add a combo class of isPlaying onto the link, and that's just going to basically turn the opacity down on that. And so we have a nice smooth transition. We'll add a transition to opacity so it just sort of fades out the way like that. And that's basically how it's going to look. We also want to hide this card photo so that way we're seeing the video underneath. We could add another combo class of isPlaying onto the photo that turns its opacity down. But since we're not going to need to change the state on mobile, it'll always look like that in that state. I think we're going to use a little custom CSS instead. So we'll just grab this combo class of isPlaying, and we're going to grab the card photo and say whenever that card photo is inside of a class of isPlaying, so we'll just basically target it like this. We're going to want to turn the opacity down on the photo. So opacity will be 0 on that photo, only when it's inside of the combo class of isPlaying. So now we're seeing the video underneath, and we can even apply a transition to opacity on the photo. So that way when we add and remove this combo class, the photo sort of just fades out and we see the video instead underneath, just like that. And that's looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove this class of isPlaying from the link for now. We'll also make sure the play button itself doesn't have the isOpen combo class. And then on the card itself, we're going to remove the isOpen class from this and remove the isClose class from these cards just to return everything back to the default state. And I'll remove this isOpen from the heading and remove isOpen from the subheading. Lastly, if we try and click in the center of this link block right now to open the modal, we're actually just clicking on the play contain. So we want to make this play contain not clickable by default. So we'll just open up our embed and we'll paste in that class name, and we want to set it to pointer events none. And then if we save that, now we can't click on that play contain at all. But whenever we add the combo class of isOpen to that contain, we want to be able to click on it so we can play the video. So we're basically just going to say the play contain with the combo class of isOpen will be set to pointer events auto, so that way we can click on it again. So now we can set up our jQuery to add in all our classes. So this is going to happen whenever we click on one of these link blocks. So we'll go ahead and copy the class of our link, head over to our jQuery builder, and our trigger is going to be on click of the class of link. The first thing we want to do is get our trigger element, or the link we clicked on, and then we want to add a combo class of isOpen to the card, but not to every card on our page, just the one that's the parent of the link we clicked on. So we'll copy that class of card, and we'll say get a parent with the class of card, and then we want to just toggle a class. So toggle a class means the first time we click, it's going to add that class. The second time we click, it will remove that class from the parent card. And the class we want to toggle is the one we created in Webflow called isOpen. That is just going to set its width to 100% width. Then we'll also want to create a new step for all of our sibling cards. So we're going to get the trigger element, or the link block we clicked on again. We'll get the parent with a class of card. And then once we have that parent card, we're going to get all of the siblings, or the other cards that are next to it. And then once we have those siblings, we want to toggle a class on them called isClosed, the one we created in Webflow, to set their width to 0%. Then we can create one more step, and this is going to be for all the children inside our card. So we'll get our trigger element again. We'll find the parent, which is our card. Then we want to find a couple children that we want to toggle a class called isOpen as well. That'll animate them in different ways. So first of all, the play contain, which is the entire play button container. Then if we want to add multiple classes into this, we can do a comma, space, period, and type multiple class names. So another one we want to toggle is the play button, which is going to bring it to an opacity of 100%. We also want to toggle the link sub, the subheading, which is going to increase the font size, and toggle a class on the link heading as well, the main one. That'll increase the font size on that. So let's just copy all this code and let's check it out. We'll head over to our project, our page settings, and the closing body tag section. We'll paste our code inside script tags. Then we can save and publish. So now if we click on any card, it scales up the font size of the subheading and main heading, sets this card to 100% width, reveals the play button inside, and when we click again, it removes all those classes to turn it back to its old state. You'll see it's also taking the siblings and setting those to 0% width, since it's toggling those classes on and off. And this is working perfectly. We can click on the play button and it's going to start playing our video in the background, but we still need to reveal that video and do everything for that. So let's go ahead and set that part up as well. This is going to happen whenever we click on this play link block here. So we'll copy that class. In our jQuery builder, we'll say on click of the play button. We want to get the play button we clicked on and then get the parent, which is the entire card. And then inside of that card, we want to find a couple children. First is the card media. Second is the actual link block itself. And then the third is the play button. And on all of those elements, we simply just want to toggle a class of isPlaying. And that isPlaying class will do different things for each of these. So for the card media, whoops, had an extra period. For the card media, it's basically just going to scale down the width and make it the height of our video. For the link, it's going to turn the opacity down to get the text and the headings out the way. And for the play button, it's going to change it to the paused state that we created in Webflow. So let's copy all this, head over to our project, and we'll paste this in down here. And let's save that and check it out. So now we can click on this. When we click play, it scales it down, sure enough, gets the heading out the way and shows the pause button here. When we click this pause button again, it toggles that class back off. So we have this where we can toggle it on and off. The only thing we need to account for is what if the video is playing and we click off somewhere else to close out the modal. We need to switch this video back to the full screen picture with the text. So we can do that in our project if we just open up our custom code. This line right here is the one that's basically just switching everything back and forth from that playing state. We can just copy that and run that inside our click of the link block. But we don't want to toggle a class because that'll add the play button on, make it start playing the first time we open the modal. We just want to remove the class every time we click on this link. So no matter if it's open or closed, it's always just going to remove that class of isPlaying and get the play button ready for us to engage with. So let's save this and check that out. So now on our live site, we can click on any of these, play the video, and when we click off to the side, it closes out the modal, returns everything back to how it should be. When we're playing the video, it's playing with audio on loop in the background. If you'd like to learn how to play background videos with audio on click, hover, or scroll into view, check out my tutorial for it on Patreon. The last thing we need to do is just make this fully responsive. So on tablet, everything's just kind of working just like it was on desktop. That's great. On this breakpoint, we're probably going to need to stack our cards. So we'll grab the entire section right here and switch the flexbox direction to where they're all stacking one on top of the other. Then the cards will take up 100% width of the parent, and for the height, it'll actually be 100 divided by 3, so they're each a third. And whenever we add that isOpen combo class, we're going to want to actually change the height this time to 100%, so it takes up the full height. And whenever we add the isClose combo class, we're okay with the width being 100% now, but we want the height to be 0% to collapse it just like that. And let's add that isClose combo class while we're at it to this card so we can see how this is going to look. And let's go ahead and add the isOpen to the center card as well right here. Or actually, I may switch these. I'll add isClose to this one, and I'll add the isOpen combo class to this one here. And then let's see what this looks like with this isOpen class. So the text is getting a bit large. I may back down the font size just slightly on this. And then let's see what the play button looks like with that combo class of isOpen on that. So the play button is still scaling up and down in size. And I think I want to just switch the play button to fixed size on this breakpoint. So maybe something like 14 pixels. And that way, when we scale down here, it's still a fixed size for the play button. But this text, I may actually back down the font size again, even just slightly. I think this is my longest one, so this is how it looks. And when we add that class, it scales up to about that size. The link sub is a bit too small here. I'd probably increase the font size a bit. And whenever we add the class of isOpen, I want to increase the font size even more. And then I want to make sure that this margin or this move distance right here is lining up. And then that's looking good there. So I can remove this class of isOpen from both the text blocks. I can remove the class of isOpen. Oh, and also let's check the card media. When we add that class of isPlaying, it scales down to the right aspect ratio, which is perfect. And that's looking great. So I'll go ahead and remove the class of isOpen from this one. And let me remove the class of isClosed from the other two. And quickly remove the class from these link headings. Looks like I did. All right, and the play button. That's one other thing I need to remove. Right here, we'll remove that class of isOpen. And then we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and publish and check this out. So if we check this out in sort of a mobile view, we can click on this card. It sort of expands like that to fill the full height. We can click play on the video and it scales down. Click pause to scale it up. And that's all looking great. This is scaling and working for all of these different sections. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, please consider subscribing to the channel so you never miss another video. Also, if you'd like, feel free to check out the clonable for this project in the description below. I'll catch you in the next video.